This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family.
Recently, Kensington Palace has been gripped by whispers of a secret that many believe could rock the British royal family to its very core. Princess Catherine reportedly shared an emotional, tearful account of the immense pressure her 3 children endure behind the cold stone walls of the palace. While she carefully avoided naming names, Catherine's words allegedly left Queen Camilla furious. Just days later, a terrifying incident sent the palace into lockdown. A vehicle carrying Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis suddenly lost control on their way to school. What has sent even greater shockwaves through the monarchy, however, is what the technical team reportedly uncovered during an internal investigation. A familiar name abruptly surfaced in the initial testimonies, fueling speculation of a silent, bitter power struggle raging behind closed doors. Yet just as the clues seemed on the verge of exposing the truth, crucial evidence mysteriously vanished into thin air. What is Queen Camilla truly hiding behind this shocking accident? Or is Catherine about to uncover a far more dangerous conspiracy, one with the power to alter the fate of the British crown forever? In a newly recorded exclusive interview centered on humanitarian causes, Catherine made a bold decision. Stripping away the usual carefully scripted diplomatic responses, the princess's eyes betrayed a fleeting melancholy as she spoke of the heavy price of the crown her children had been forced to bear from such a tender age. She did not utter a single specific name, absolutely refusing to weaponize the media for a personal attack. Yet, her heartfelt reflections on heavy expectations far beyond their years, the stifling cold discipline from within the palace walls, and the lack of the protective indulgence a child rightfully deserves from their elders, unwittingly triggered a subterranean earthquake. Catherine's gaze did not meet the camera lens as she spoke those words. Instead, she looked intently at the family photograph resting on the table. The resilience, laced with heartbreak, in the mother's voice resonated like a poignant, unspoken manifesto. The public and the media, with their inherent sharp intuition, immediately began searching for the shadow lurking behind that invisible pressure. Every spearhead of public opinion, whether by chance or design, began to turn toward another powerful woman in the palace, Queen Camilla. The news spread with terrifying speed the moment the broadcast aired. Amidst the cavernous cold corridors of Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere instantly froze. Catherine's candor was met with fierce waves of backlash from internal factions. Traditionalists devoted to ancient protocol, and the king's inner circle viewed the Princess of Wales's actions as a breach of unwritten codes, a calculated self-serving attempt to court public sympathy and plunge the monarchy into vulnerability. Scrutinizing glares and hushed whispers broke out in every corridor passed by courtiers. They were indignant that Catherine had dared to drag the dark side of royal austerity into the light. Conversely, the loyal staff at the Kensington Palace office quietly harbored deep empathy. They had witnessed far too many times when the 3 children had to suppress their spirits, Louis's timid, withdrawn head bows, or the tension etched across George's face whenever they prepared to attend major events alongside all the senior royals. This internal division within the royal household mutated into a bloodless psychological war, driving tension to a fever pitch as opposing factions clashed through confidential memos and brief high-pressure phone calls between the offices. Inside the royal drawing room, where the portraits of Windsor ancestors looked down with severe gravity, Queen Camilla stood by a grand window overlooking the gardens of Clarence House. Since the coronation in May 2023, she had systematically solidified her supreme standing alongside King Charles, maintaining a strict and unyielding court order that tolerated no signs of weakness or deviation. To her, the dignity of the crown demanded a price of absolute obedience even from young children. The evening news segment concluded, and the television screen snapped off, leaving a terrifying silence in its wake. Camilla did not turn around, but her shoulders went rigid beneath her royal blue silk dress. Her fingers tightened around the crystal glass. She held her gemstone rings glittering with a cold light. The Queen's face at this moment betrayed a state of extreme tension. Her brow was furrowed, and the lines at the corners of her eyes cut deeper under the strain of suppressed rage. She felt with absolute clarity that every single word uttered by Catherine, though nameless, was a velvet-wrapped arrow aimed squarely at her management style and her severe attitude toward the Wales children over the past months. Camilla's usual composure was swallowed by an undercurrent of fury. Her breathing grew rapid, her sharp, cold eyes staring blankly into the void outside. A tense, bleak, and ominous atmosphere hung over the entire royal family like a gathering dark storm, signaling irreversible fractures spreading from the very roots of the monarchy. The simmering tension from Catherine's remarks had not yet subsided when another bleak cloud hastily enveloped the Wales family. That morning, the sleek, heavily fortified royal limousine shut its doors, carrying the three children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, as it rolled toward their school. In Catherine's heart, maintaining a sense of normalcy for her children in the wake of the media storm was the ultimate priority. Yet a mother's intuition seemed to awaken a vague sense of unease the moment she watched the car vanish behind the line of trees. The crisis struck at a blind curve along their familiar route. The vehicle suddenly accelerated erratically, the engine roaring with a harsh, uncharacteristic, and out-of-sync rhythm. The loyal driver, a seasoned protection officer with decades of royal service, instantly realized the brake pedal had lost all feedback. The heavy car hurtled out of control like a wounded wild beast. In that life-or-death moment, utter panic suffocated the cramped space in the back. George instinctively threw his arms around his sister, while Charlotte gripped Louis's coat tightly as the youngest boy began to wail in terror. Relying on his sharp reflexes and combat experience, the driver gripped the steering wheel deliberately, guiding the side of the car to scrape hard against the median barrier to bleed off speed before intentionally steering the front of the vehicle directly into a large oak tree by the roadside to come to a halt. The violent impact deformed the front of the car with white smoke billowing out amidst the piercing shrieks of the emergency alarms. Fortunately, thanks to the airbag system and the specially reinforced chassis, none of the three siblings sustained serious injuries, suffering only bruises and extreme fright. When she received the classified alert from the security team, Catherine felt the entire world collapse beneath her feet. The blood drained completely from her face, and the phone in her hand clattered to the floor. Her steps faltered, her heart racing frantically as she rushed to the rescue vehicle to get to the scene. The moment she tightly held her three trembling children in her arms, smelling the acrid smoke still lingering in their hair, the resentment and fear in the mother's heart transformed into a terrifying resolve. Without a moment's hesitation, Catherine immediately ordered the entire scene sealed off and demanded an urgent, comprehensive review of both the maintenance protocols and the management of the royal fleet. She refused to accept this as a mere coincidence. The technical inspection was conducted that very night in the isolated security workshop under the strict supervision of the Princess and Prince William themselves. The fleet manager, a middle-aged man renowned for his meticulous caution, stood trembling before a thick stack of maintenance files. As page after page of the technical log was turned, irregularities began to surface. This vehicle had just passed a comprehensive safety inspection a mere 3 days prior with perfect parameters. The braking system showed absolutely no signs of natural wear and tear, yet the brake fluid pressure had mysteriously plummeted right before the journey. The psychological conflict reached a climax when the manager, under the cold interrogation and the piercing, authoritative gaze of William, began to stammer. The silence in the vast room became suffocating, broken only by the sound of Catherine's restless pacing. Each hidden discrepancy in the records acted like scattered puzzle pieces, gradually indicating that there had been deliberate external mechanical tampering with the car's hydraulic system, turning a state-of-the-art security vehicle into a mobile death trap. He confessed that around midnight, before the day of the accident, when the entire workshop was deserted, Queen Camilla had unexpectedly appeared alongside a trusted personal guard. Citing the reason of inspecting logistics for the king's upcoming trip, she had ordered the manager to leave his post for a moment and personally walked into the parking area of the vehicle, scheduled to transport the 3 Wales children the following morning. The manager recalled the Queen's cold, expressionless face under the dim lights that night, along with brief directives regarding adjusting the transport roster without going through the administrative office. That testimony hit the Prince and Princess of Wales like a bucket of ice water. Catherine stood frozen, her breath catching in her chest, while William's eyes became bloodshot with rage. The vague initial suspicion had now taken a concrete, terrifying, and ruthless shape. The Queen's highly irregular appearance at a location outside her jurisdiction at such a sensitive hour served as an unspoken confirmation of a dark conspiracy aimed directly at the heirs to the throne. Facing a matter that could shake the very foundations of the monarchy, William and Catherine exchanged a look of deep understanding, but also one of immense caution. They understood that they could not make a public scene out of this story without undeniable documentary evidence. They would keep this information strictly hidden from the royal council, close their doors tightly to protect their children, and secretly establish an independent investigative team to silently track and dissect every single one of Camilla's moves in the days to come.
The decision to secretly investigate the most powerful woman in the monarchy placed a crushing weight upon the shoulders of the Prince and Princess of Wales. William contacted an isolated group of loyal security experts individuals who had served under the late Princess Diana to ensure absolute confidentiality. Catherine personally managed the flow of information. Every gesture, glance, and movement itinerary of Queen Camilla was meticulously recorded and cross-referenced on dossier pages that never left a digital footprint. Days passed in a terrifying silence. Whenever she faced Camilla during grand galas or internal family meetings, Catherine had to force herself to maintain a composed countenance, a flawless, social smile. Yet deep within her gaze, a cold scrutiny never faded. The incoming reconnaissance reports continuously described inexplicable details, brief encounters between Camilla and a few former technical staff members in the dark corners of the palace, or her sudden shift in usage habits regarding her secure telephone. Nevertheless, everything remained at the level of suspicion. Every action of the Queen was perfectly masked under the guise of official duties or charitable endeavors, leaving behind not a single direct trace that could constitute evidence of sabotage. William's patience was gradually ground away, while Catherine's unease swelled by the day, as she realized their adversary was a master of caution.
The psychological conflict escalated to a climax as the investigation dragged on without a single concrete breakthrough. The lack of evidence acted like a solid stone wall blocking every effort made by the couple. Catherine began to fall into perpetual sleepless nights. She would often stand for hours by her bedroom window, staring intently into the desolate darkness of the Windsor grounds, wondering whether she was being overly sensitive or truly confronting a concealed venomous viper.
Every minor sound from her children's rooms, every footstep of a guard in the corridor, caused the mother's nerves to tighten like violin strings. William attempted to reassure his wife with firm handshakes, but the very helplessness of failing to find a clear answer was also gnawing away at the confidence of a man who was the protector of his family. This dead-end suspicion began to fracture their trust in the entire security system around them, transforming the palace into a lonely fortress riddled with anxiety. In the midst of the investigation's deadlock, A glimmer of hope suddenly flashed when the secret security team discovered that the backup server system of the fleet maintenance workshop still stored an original data log from the night of the incident. This was considered the golden key, as it automatically recorded the identity of anyone who scanned an access card to enter the specialized technical zone. However, just as William's security expert breached the system to extract it, the computer monitor abruptly went black. Line after line of crucial data code concerning the hours between 11 o'clock that night and 1 o'clock the next morning began to automatically wipe clean right before their eyes. A high-level override command from an account with supreme administrative privileges within the palace had been triggered, remotely erasing the entire access history and backup security camera segments. This decisive professional act of erasing traces was the clearest proof that the hand of an upper-tier power was maneuvering from behind the scenes.
The sudden disappearance of the original data was the fatal blow that pushed the investigation into absolute gridlock. No technical evidence remained, and no witness dared to utter a word after witnessing such brutal interference from the highest level. Every clue leading to the truth behind the brakeless vehicle had been legally buried beneath the strict security protocols of the royal family. Catherine stared blankly at the empty report on her desk, her lips pressed together so tightly they bled. Her overwhelming frustration was swiftly replaced by a different unyielding fire. She understood that legal justice or internal verdicts would never manifest in this power game. Though the investigation closed in silence, it had pushed the boundary between the two most powerful women in the monarchy into a life-or-death confrontation. One where Catherine knew she could rely on no one but herself to protect the survival of her children.
The aftermath of the brake failure incident did not stop at the scratches on the car's chassis. It silently left deep fractures within the heart of the royal family. Since the night the data was wiped clean, the atmosphere at both Buckingham Palace and Windsor had plunged into a terrifying coldness. During grand ceremonies or routine family gatherings, Queen Camilla's presence felt like a cold gust of wind sweeping through the room. The gaze she cast upon the three Wales children was no longer one of superficial social courtesy. Instead, it had hardened into an overt hostile severity.
This shift had the most profound psychological impact on George, Charlotte, and Louis. The children, usually accustomed to polite decorum, began to exhibit a distinct wariness. The once playful young Louis now tended to shrink behind his mother, his small hands clutching tightly to Catherine's skirt whenever the Queen's silhouette appeared at the end of a corridor. George, as the eldest brother, and the one who understood the invisible pressures best, always maintained a strained countenance, his shoulders tensed in defense, while Charlotte withdrew entirely, her eyes cast toward the floor, instead of offering a confident greeting as protocol dictated. A mother's sensitivity allowed Catherine to instantly pick up on the psychological anomalies in her children. During a family afternoon tea at Adelaide Cottage, as she watched Louis jump in fright at the mere sound of a courtier's footsteps, one whose uniform resembled that of Camilla's retinue, Catherine's heart tightened with pain. She realized her children no longer felt safe within their own home. Joint royal engagements, which were supposed to bind the generations together, had now become a stage rife with tension and scrutiny.
Her heartache for the innocent children swiftly transformed into an unyielding fire within the princess. She could not stand by and watch this psychological trauma continue to gnaw away at their childhood. Every tender gesture as she held Louis close, every reassuring stroke of Charlotte's hair, was accompanied by an iron resolve she would stand as a shield, separating her children from the toxic psychological hunting initiated by that powerful woman. Just as her anxieties reached a fever pitch, the head of the Wales family's close protection detail proactively presented a top-secret dossier. Standing under the dim desk lamp of the study, the veteran officer, his face solemn, pointed out the fatal vulnerabilities in the current security apparatus, which relied far too heavily on the centralized management of Buckingham Palace.
the security team proposed a bold strategy, restructuring the entire protection protocol, completely severing the communication, logistics, and personnel systems of the three children from the influence of the Queen's office. This was a decision that challenged the institution itself, for erecting an independent security barrier was nothing short of a silent declaration of war, confirming an absolute loss of trust in the existing order. Flipping through the pages of the new defense schematics, which ranged from shifting driving personnel to establishing independent encrypted radio frequencies, Catherine felt the immense weight of the impending choice. Without a second thought, William's decisive nod and Catherine's steadfast gaze sealed the family's new direction. They chose to elevate the safety and psychological stability of their three children above all diplomatic rules or royal appearances. From that moment on, an invisible yet formidable wall was officially erected around George, Charlotte, and Louis. The Prince and Princess of Wales were fully prepared to accept the whispers and criticisms of self-isolation or arrogance from other members of the clan. To a mother like Catherine, reputation or the satisfaction of elders held no value when weighed against the lives and smiles of the children she had carried and brought into the world. The invisible wall of protection around the three Wales children was swiftly materialized through unprecedentedly stringent security measures. The family's former protection detail was completely replaced by loyal special operators individuals who reported directly and exclusively to Prince William. The daily routine of transporting George, Charlotte, and Louis to school was transformed into a closed-loop security operation. Transit routes were randomized every single morning, while independent tracking devices and signal scanners operated continuously to ensure no remote interference could affect the convoy's control systems. This security clampdown quickly extended to the three children's daily schedules and public appearances. Catherine personally reviewed and adjusted the entire guest list and service personnel for any event involving her children. Joint royal afternoon teas and ceremonial activities, which were time-honored traditions, were now either heavily scaled back or drastically limited in duration. This abrupt shift sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace. Queen Camilla's faction continuously leveled veiled criticisms, asserting that the Princess of Wales's actions were an overreaction that damaged the royal family's public image of unity and sowed unnecessary division. Reprimand memos from the Central Administrative Office arrived at Kensington Palace with increasing frequency, but they were met only with a cold silence from the Prince and Princess of Wales. Just as the psychological warfare over the new security measures reached its tensest phase, the independent investigative report on the brake failure accident was officially delivered to William's desk. Catherine sat beside her husband, her hands tightly clasped in his, as they read the final concluding lines. Contrary to their expectations of a breakthrough, the thick dossier ended with a deeply helpless assertion the investigation was closed without reaching any definitive conclusion. The prior wiping of core data had severed every strand of legal connection. On paper, the incident was recorded merely as a rare technical failure due to sudden fluctuations in hydraulic pressure. Staring at the file as it was closed with an archived stamp, a sense of profound frustration washed over the couple. They understood that the forces behind Camilla had swept the battlefield far too cleanly and professionally. The truth had been buried beneath the layers of power and the supreme security protocols of the monarchy, reducing any effort to seek justice through official channels to an absolute zero. This legal helplessness did not shake Catherine's resolve. On the contrary, it ignited a more steadfast and ruthless fire within the mother's heart. She promised herself that she would never again trade the safety of her children for any political compromise or diplomatic appearance. The inconclusive nature of the investigation only proved just how dangerous and profound the threat outside truly was. Catherine understood she had no room to retreat. From this moment on, She completely cast off the compliance of a royal daughter-in-law to don the armor of a lioness, prepared to confront any power, even the most supreme, to preserve the lives and the future of her children.
As time passed, the rhythm of life within the royal palaces outwardly reclaimed its inherent tranquility. The vehicles transporting the three Wales children resumed rolling along the familiar routes from Windsor to school, yet everything within the core of that structure had changed forever. Far from loosening, the security wall erected by Catherine and William grew increasingly stringent, solidifying into an immutable routine. Every single vehicle was subjected to 3 independent tiers of technical clearance before its wheels turned. Every guard escorting the siblings George, Charlotte, and Louis was required to carry a continuously operating digital recording device. The presence of these dense protective measures served as a silent, painful reminder of a danger that had never truly vanished. Catherine was no longer the anxious woman of months past. The gaze she cast upon her children playing in the courtyard no longer held a trace of panic, replaced instead by the calm, frightening coldness of a sentry. She personally logged her children's daily schedules, controlled every meal and drink, and steadfastly declined any invitation to family events that lacked absolute security guarantees from her own detail. The questions and suspicions regarding the true identity of the person who had tampered with the braking system that night endured like a ghost lurking in every corner of Kensington Palace, unanswered, yet never to be forgotten. The steadfast resolve of the Wales family and Queen Camilla's increasingly overt hostile detachment toward the 3 children could not escape the eyes of the media and the public. Although both sides consistently strove to maintain a proper demeanor, before the lenses, the physical distance and the complete lack of natural interaction during grand ceremonial events ignited a fierce wave of speculation. Public opinion began to divide sharply over the varying hypotheses splashed across the newspapers. A segment of the public influenced by psychological analysis articles began to raise significant questions about Camilla's cold behavior, suggesting she was seeking to sideline the influence of the future Wales generation to consolidate the power of her own faction. Endless debates on royal forums transformed the palace into the epicenter of a simmering crisis of confidence. Every stride, every piercing look that Camilla inadvertently directed toward Catherine during ceremonies was dissected, analyzed, and turned into proof of a deep-seated vendetta concealed beneath the aristocratic velvet robes. Just as the societal controversies were reaching a crescendo, a new tremor emerged from deep within the palace's classified archiving system. Late one evening, as William was reviewing backlogged administrative documents, a new internal report stamped urgent from the Royal Intelligence Office unexpectedly appeared on his desk. The dossier bore no sender's name, but inside lay an in-depth technical analysis of the data stream that had been wiped clean on the night of the accident 2 years prior.
Catherine stepped beside her husband, her hair falling loosely over her slender shoulders, her eyes intently scanning each faded line printed on the paper. The report did not name Camilla explicitly, but it delivered a shocking piece of information. The command to erase the original data that night had been issued from a localized device whose coordinates perfectly matched the location of the Queen's private quarters at Clarence House during those exact hours. Furthermore, the document exposed an irregular under-the-table budget transfer from a charitable fund patronized by Camilla to the offshore account of a former technical staff member who had resigned immediately after the accident. The newly surfaced report acted like an electric current, tearing through the artificial peace of the room. Yet instead of providing a satisfying resolution, it left a string of massive, unanswered questions in its wake. Why was such a sensitive document able to slip through the security apparatus to reach William's hands at this precise moment? Who was pulling the strings from behind, deliberately rekindling the ashes of the old accident to incite a direct confrontation between the future princess and the reigning queen? Catherine closed the dossier, the dry rustle of paper echoing in the stillness of the room. She no longer felt surprise or outrage. The crisis known as the brake failure accident might have been procedurally closed, but the mysteries, the malicious conspiracies, and the power struggle behind the velvet curtain of the Windsor dynasty remained a massive question mark hanging over everyone. The mother understood that in the world of crowns and royal secrets, the truth was sometimes not meant to be brought to light, but to be wielded as a weapon for the long life or death battles ahead. After reading the story, do you believe Queen Camilla was truly the mastermind behind the accident that nearly claimed the lives of the 3 children? Or is she merely a pawn being used by another anonymous force within the palace to ignite a war for the crown? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.